Senator, you have said that we need to fundamentally change our relationship with China. You have been leading the fight in the U.S. Senate from what I can see on this. Specifically, how are we going to push back against a China that now seems to exert massive influence on our country?
Yeah, the most significant change that I think is going to come out of this pandemic is I hope, a fundamental reassessment of the United States' relationship with China and the world's relationship with China. I've been saying for a long time, China is the single most important, the most significant geopolitical competitor to the United States for the next century. They've got 1.3 billion people. They're governed by a communist government that lies, that murders, that tortures its citizens. They invest billions in their military, billions in expanding their economic influence. And I think this pandemic really illustrates just how dangerous that repressive regime of lying is. I've been saying that a long time. What's interesting now is a whole lot of other people are suddenly noticing, hey, wait a second, these Chinese communists are not good guys.
Right. And we're now seeing, I just read a report that there's a Chinese propaganda radio station that is now broadcasting into the United States. We're allowing that to happen. Is there legislation right now going on to try to stop some of these activities?
No, that's exactly right. It's the Phoenix TV station. You may remember this Chinese reporter who was at the White House who asked the president a question, and the president had the wherewithal to ask, where are you from? You're from China. And she says, no, Hong Kong. And it turns out, well, yes, they're nominally Hong Kong, but they're owned and controlled by the Chinese Communist government. And that same company, that same Phoenix TV station, set up a broadcast TV station in Mexico, right over the border. It's more powerful than any broadcast stations we have in the U.S., and they're broadcasting into California. Right now, you've got those waves, since you're in California, going through you in Chinese language. So the Chinese government is controlling the contents on Chinese language radio throughout Southern California. I've got legislation to stop the FCC from allowing them to do that. They applied for an FCC license. I wrote a letter to the FCC 2 years ago asking the FCC to block the Chinese propaganda from coming in. The FCC did so they agreed with me, but they got a license on a provisional appeal. They've appealed it. And during the appeal, they're able to saturate the airwaves with propaganda. We got to take these threats seriously, and I think what's going on right now illustrates why.
Well, I hope that bill becomes law, and I hope that actually goes into force, because the problem, Senator, here in Southern California, it's a lot worse than just the Phoenix TV station broadcasting. One thing I've noticed living right here in Hollywood is that China basically owns Hollywood at this point. There is such a financial tie between our media apparatus, entertainment and I suppose news media, and the Chinese government. Is there any way to break that apart, or are the ties just too deep at this point?
So Hollywood is almost entirely bought and paid for by China. It's such a big part. If you're making a movie, you don't want to tick off China because it's too big a part of your global revenues. And so the great free speech warriors of Hollywood are perfectly happy to let China edit out portions of their movie they don't like. You look at Bohemian Rhapsody, wonderful, wonderful biopic of Freddie Mercury, fantastic portrayal. When they released it in China, they edited out anything to illustrate that Freddie Mercury was gay. Like, what in the hell are you talking about? It's Freddie Mercury's life story. Yeah, the guy's gay. But you know what? Hollywood was perfectly fine to say, just erase it. We are the Chinese Communist government. This does not exist. And Hollywood went along with it. It's dangerous. I'll give you another example. Top Gun, the sequel to Top Gun, it is coming out, expected later this year. Top Gun, the original, may be the greatest Navy recruiting film that ever came out. Also was pretty awesome for beach volleyball in terms of the numbers after that. So Maverick, the jacket that Maverick wears, on the back of it, it has the Taiwan flag and the Japanese flag. The new Top Gun, they edited them out because they didn't want to piss off the Chinese overlord. And God knows if you acknowledge Taiwan's there, or even Japan. And what the hell does it say, Michael, that Maverick is terrified of the Chinese communists? This is garbage, and Hollywood kowtowing is wrong. I also introduced legislation actually just this week called the Script Act that says if any Hollywood producer, if any movie maker lets the Chinese Communist government censor or edit a film, that they can't have access to our military, to our ships, to our planes, to everything they use to film movies like Top Gun. They don't get access to that if they're going to hand over the censorship power to the Chinese Communist government.